Rise and shine, bitches. Welcome back to another episode of Just a Quick Pinch. I'm your host, Connie Wang. Alrighty, so this week is another solo episode with me, myself, and I. I feel like whenever I have like big life events, I like to do solo episodes to just open up about my life, share things that I'm going through. And so as you guys know, this week is the week before my last licensure exam. It's officially 1 week away. And I just wanted to discuss a topic that is just very near and dear to my heart, which is putting pressure on yourselves and the story and the narratives that you might create for yourself. But before we dive into the main episode, first things first, we got our Hot Girl Huddle. Hit it, editing, Connie. Alrighty, you guys. So first things first, we have our healthcare horoscope for the week, our weekly tarot pull. Alrighty, you guys, the card of the week is, the 9 of Pentacles, but it is reversed, just like this. The words of the week for this, no, I don't want to subscribe. The words of the week for this week are, self-worth, overinvestment in work, and hustling. So apparently when you see this card in a tarot reading, take the opportunity to reflect on your own sense of self-worth and value. On one hand, you may question if you're enough, if your skills are valuable. On the other hand, you may be focusing on increasing your sense of self-worth, like investing in yourself, practicing and learning a new skill. The reverse 9 of Pentacles can appear when you're so busy working and hustling that you have no time or energy to enjoy the fruits of your labor. I'm like quickly scanning the section. I'm like, is there anything about taking a licensure exam and passing? However, that is our card of the week. Now on to my I's and O's, my ins and outs of the week. Alrighty, you guys, so my in of the week is actually the strategy that I've been doing recently, which one of my previous guests, Masha K, recommended. So it's basically whenever you get stressed, just do a very focused form of movement. So basically, for example, when dogs are really stressed out, when they have a stressful experience, like if you try to clip their nails or something, you'll notice that they shake after. It's almost like they're trying to shake off that anxiety, which is actually exactly what they're doing. But in humans, it's actually helpful to do that too, apparently. So sometimes when you're feeling really stressed out, you might just want to like curl up in a ball and not move or do anything for that matter, but you have to fight that urge. So for example, on this weekend, I had a lot of free time and I started kind of spiraling and stressing about my licensure exam, of course, but I like caught myself and I realized I was doing that. So I went on the treadmill and I walked at an incline of 10 for a speed of 2.7 while watching a YouTube video, and it was honestly very enjoyable. 2.7 is just enough speed for it to be like leisurely and not too I don't know, exhausting, but you still get a really therapeutic sweat from it. I watched videos for about like an hour, and at the end of it, it was just like so satisfying. I was like drenched in sweat. I felt like I really walked off all of my anxiety. It was kind of like the equivalent of being a dog and shaking off that anxiety. But I mean, like if you're busy like during the workday, let's say you had like a tough conversation with your boss, or you had a fight with your significant other, or like a patient really riled you up from this one experience. One good way to just quickly release that is maybe like walk up and down the stairs for a little bit, do a couple jumping jacks, just do whatever you can to kind of like physically shake it off. And even though it's such a small thing, you might notice that it really helps you like recalibrate and like kind of get that clarity in your mind, because otherwise when we have things that shake us in our day-to-day, we tend to carry them on with like the rest of our day. And then okay, my out of the week, so basically long story short, the reason why I use the example of like cutting your dog's nails as being a stressor, so basically Jimmy tried to cut Ellie's nails this weekend and he accidentally cut too close to like the quick, I think is what it's called, where like he cut like a little bit too far into her nail and it started bleeding. It's actually really funny to hear from the other room because he was doing it in the bedroom, and you hear him go like, okay Ellie, it's gonna be fine, we're gonna cut your nails now, okay? And then you hear like, and then you hear like, yay, you did it, good job. And then you hear her kind of jumping around and him being like, good job. And then you hear a little silence, and then he goes, oh no. And I was like, oh god, he did it, didn't he? You just quickly hear him go, oh no, it's okay Ellie, it's, oh no, stop jumping around. So basically, long story short, she started bleeding from this like one little toenail, and then she was like running all around in our apartment with her bloody paw. So basically, like in my apartment now on our carpet, you just see these little mini paw prints of like little bloody dots. It's like not enough to look like crazy, but it's definitely enough where if you like kind of looked, you'd be like, is that blood? Now we don't know how to get it out because I tried wiping them with Lysol wipes. It like kind of worked in the beginning, but it just kind of like smeared the rest of the blood, and now my carpet's just like pink in certain areas. So now we have a bloody carpet, but we also don't want to Google search how to get blood out of a carpet because that just seems like something that the FBI is monitoring. I don't know. It just seems like something you're not supposed to Google. So My out of the week is getting tiny spots of blood on every surface of my apartment, on my carpet, on my couch, on my bed. So if you have any advice for how I can get off these like little minuscule pockets, and it's not like it's all in one area, like it's like kind of everywhere. So let me know if you have any advice. Like, does the Roomba vacuum have like a blood removal setting? If so, that's also a little concerning. Do you see my problem here? Okay, so yeah, that is all we have this week for my ins and outs of the week. Now on to Spit Talk. Spit Talk honestly is kind of like this main episode and everything combined. The only thing that's kind of going on in my life right now is this week, the name of the game is just trying to stay calm and just be good to myself while I'm stressing out and practicing over this licensure exam. One thing that's really helped me a lot this past week in dealing with all the stress and stuff is the book The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It's honestly such a good book, and it's kind of exactly what I needed in this circumstance to like reframe my mind on how I approach things like unfair situations, how I approach things like challenges, how I approach things like bouncing back from setbacks. So that's basically all I've been reading. But anyways, I feel like it's good to kind of combine Spit Talk in the main episode this week since it's kind of all the same thing. So as you guys already know, my licensure exam, last week I was like really shitting my pants. Like, well, actually no, this week I still am. Honestly, I haven't had a solid poo in like a very long time. It's just been, but anyways, as I was saying, this week I still kind of am stressed out, but I also feel that sense of like game time mode that I get into before a big event. I don't know why, I'm like kind of weird. I don't know if anybody else does this, but for some reason I feel the most nervous for a big event 2 weeks before it happens, because that's just far enough where like I still have a lot of time to ruminate, but it still feels like it's close. Whereas when it becomes like 1 week before the event, I just snap into game mode and I kind of don't think about anything else and I just like do what I have to do. I think part of it is too, like 2 weeks before a big event, I've noticed like I literally feel so much anxiety that I almost think my brain tries to make it a really miserable time for me to experience, just so that like it makes it so miserable in the now that it makes me want to get it over with. Like I'm like, oh thank god this is finally coming so that I can go back to like normal life. Anyways, the reason why I wanted to make today's episode is because I had like the best conversation with my good friend Alex this past week. When I say this was like the best conversation, this conversation literally took like 4 years of weight off of my shoulders, and I think I'm not alone in how I felt. And so, you know, a lot of what we were talking about was the pressures that I've been putting on myself, the story I told myself about who I am. And so I think whoever is listening to this right now or watching this, you could really benefit from this too. Basically, I've never really opened up much about this on any sort of platform, but these past 4 years of dental school, I've always felt this like insane amount of pressure to pass every competency on the first try, to be naturally good at everything, and to make everything look easy, and to constantly look like I have it all together. I think part of it is honestly because I came from this background of already having a PharmD, and I felt like I had to like represent PharmDs in a good light because we're always being overlooked by other medical professionals in the community, and I just kind of wanted to show how awesome we are and like show what we can do. And so that kind of led to me also feeling like I couldn't let my guard down and feeling like I had to always be together. And part of it is also because, you know, I have my Instagram page where thousands of people are following along on the journey, and I just felt like every move I made, I either had someone that was looking up to me as a role model and like expecting me to do everything right, or on the flip side, I also felt like there were probably people out there like waiting and like wanting to see like the juicy hot gossip of me failing, or like wanting to judge me for something. Like I just kind of felt like there were these two camps, when in reality no one's probably thinking that much about me, and they're probably in the middle. Either way, I'm willing to bet that you've probably felt that same amount of pressure, because I think we're all carrying around some sort of weight and some sort of expectations on us right now. We all feel a certain level of responsibility that comes with our identities and the stories that we tell ourselves. So for example, maybe you're the first person in your family to be a doctor and you have to navigate this program alone, or you feel the pressures of always being the person in your family to fix things or to get things right. You feel like you're the star child, so you can't fail now because that's who you are. On the flip side, maybe you come from a super prestigious family of doctors and you feel like you have to live up to your family name and the reputation and everything. Maybe you feel like you have to represent your community back at home, or maybe you feel like you have to be the one that like makes it in your family. Basically, long story short, we just all have these kind of narratives that we tell ourselves about who we are and why we must succeed. And in some ways, this narrative has actually been helpful. It's actually helped us get to this very moment wherever you are. But also, like with anything, there comes a time where it can only help serve us so much. It can only help us on the rise so much before it plateaus, and then it actually begins to hold us back as well. So this is where my conversation with Alex really came into play. Basically, the convo kind of went like this. I was like, oh my god, Alex, I'm so scared for my licensure exam. He was like, why? And then I was like, I'm afraid to fail. And then he was like, why? And then I was like, because I put so much work into this, and like, what if it's not enough and I'm letting down all the people that are looking up to me, and I'm also vindicating all the people that are waiting and wanting to see like that juicy hot gossip of seeing me fail. And then Alex said something that really stood out to me. He said two things actually. The second part is the more powerful part, and the part that honestly like really changed my life. Not to be dramatic, and this is why I wish I talked to him 4 years ago, but we'll get there. The first thing he reminded me is that one, people that are following along and waiting to see you fail, they're not really riding with you anyways. Also, chances are you probably don't have that many people waiting to see you fail. It's all in your head, and it's part of the story that you tell yourself. If you have like a chip on your shoulder or some kind of like narrative that you tell yourself that like, yeah, everybody wants to see me fail, I'm an imposter, chances are there's not really a huge camp of people waiting to see you fail. But let's say on the off chance that there is a camp of people waiting to see you fail. Like I said, they're not really riding for you, they're not really rooting for you, they're not the people that you want to have around you at the end of the day. If you failing one thing and having one human experience of a setback is going to make them see you differently and see you as less than, if they think this one experience is representative of you, then they're not the right people that you want around you. And I think we all, regardless if you have a following or not, we all have a community somewhere. And we all experience that fear of judgment from our peers and like the close ones at the end of the day, like to some degree. Chances are the people that really care about you, the people that really love you, your self-worth is not this sort of flimsy thing that comes and goes with achievements. It's not like, oh, we love her and she's worth a lot the day that she does this, but then the day that she fails, she's not worth anything at all. That's not how people are. That's not how you think about your loved ones, right? So then why are you holding yourself to such this unrealistic standard? Long story short, with this first point, if you fear that other people are waiting for you to fail, then they were never really there for you anyways, and they're not someone that you should care about either in the highs or the lows. Also, last but not least, they can never truly get that satisfaction of seeing you fail if you keep getting up every time and if you keep bouncing back. The power is always still in your hand. The second thing that Alex said to me, and this was the most powerful part of the conversation, was when I said that I'm afraid to fail because I feel like I have to be a role model for other people that are looking up to me and looking at me for advice and inspiration, he asked me, what do you look for in a role model? And it took me a little bit off guard at first because I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before, or like I've never really thought about it before. I thought about like what I look for in a mentor, like with careers, but a role model feels kind of different. A role model is someone that you can see yourself almost like in their shoes. It encapsulates so much more than just your career. So after some thought, I actually realized, and I told him, I think what I look for in a role model is someone that's been through it all. Like, I want someone that knows what a low is like. I don't want some robot or someone that's never faced adversity, or they probably have and just aren't vulnerable enough to share that they did. I don't want someone that is too proud to admit that they've made a mistake before, and someone that doesn't know how to bounce back from failures. I want someone that's human, someone that's been in the trenches and has learned how to pick themselves up from a failure, someone that knows how to give advice on this situation because they've been through it. That's what I want in a role model. I want someone that knows what it's like to feel that gut punch, to feel disappointed, to feel shocked, because then that also means that they know what it feels like to be hopeful, to be persistent, to dream and to keep dreaming even though it feels hard and they feel like they want to quit. So in that moment, I realized I cannot be afraid to become my own role model. I cannot and should not hold myself to a different standard than everyone else just because of that fear of going through difficult emotions and failures, just like everyone else does, just like all the other humans in life do. That's part of the human experience of life. Because at the end of the day, we're so much stronger because of difficult emotions, but we're also better equipped at helping others. We're better able to make an impact wherever we are because of difficult emotions. Isn't that kind of like the ultimate goal of what I'm trying to do? Like, if I want to make an impact on my patients, on my friends and family, if I want to mentor and help others, I have to be willing to put myself through this fire and be willing to bounce back from the burn that's inevitably gonna come. I feel like the biggest thing that this conversation did for me was, for the first time in 4 years, it felt like I finally had the permission to be human. I had the permission to experience everything just like everyone else does, just taking it as it comes. I'm not Connie, the dental school guru, I'm Connie, the human. And it kind of made me see that things that can cause negative emotions will only be seen that way if I see them that way. Like otherwise, I can turn everything into a tool or an opportunity or an advantage. There's this like ancient stoicism quote that's, choose not to feel harmed and you won't be harmed, which is basically the idea that you get to choose what your experience from something is, and it's not really what happened, it's what you think happened. So being human, making mistakes, it's all part of life, and there's all something positive that can be gained from it and something that you can use from it. Basically, I realized that for all these 4 years of dental school, I've held myself to a different standard than everyone, and I bet you do too. Like with all the different stories and the different narratives that you tell yourself. You tell yourself, I'm not allowed to fail because that will affect my self-worth and my standing with my peers. You say, I'm not allowed to fail because I have people back at home that I have to make proud. I'm not allowed to fail because I'm afraid to stick out from my peers. These are all narratives that we tell ourselves, and maybe at some point they were good motivators to get you here, like I said, but at a certain point now, we have to look at this big picture narrative of if it's helping us anymore or if it's just holding us back from up-leveling and taking that next step. Change that story to, I am strong, I can overcome anything. Change that story to, I am lucky, I always somehow get what I want, or if I don't get what I want, it's because I get something even better than what I wanted. Change that narrative to, I'm someone that will always bounce back and I'm someone that can always figure things out. Change that narrative and see what happens. See how that can get you to the next level. Basically, for whoever's listening to this today, I'm giving you permission right here and right now, wherever you are hearing this. From this point on, I'm giving you the permission to be human. You have the permission to make mistakes. You have the permission to not be the one that always gets things right and always fixes things and always holds everything together. You have the permission to try something and fail. You have the permission to be human and to go through this experience without that weight of that self-imposed pressure and the narrative that you've been carrying. Those things are heavy. Okay? They don't serve us anymore at this point in our journey, so just put them down. You have permission to put that heavy stuff down. I hope this resonated with some of you guys out there. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all just humans trying our best with the painful, gritty, happy, sad, all the different emotions of the stories that we tell ourselves, and we're just like, what do we do with this now? What do we do with this story about who we are? And I just think that it's important to remind yourself that you can change that story at any time to stories that help serve you. Anyways, that is all I have for this week's episode of Just a Quick Pinch. I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that this helped you wherever you guys are. If you like what you heard, please leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. Follow along on there. We also have this video on YouTube as well, and I believe this podcast is also on Google Podcasts, CastBox, all the other places. So that's all I have for this week. I will see you guys on Friday.